ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ओम नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च। So Hari Om, salutations to all. So we are seeing the Kathopanishad chapter 2, Valli 3, and in that mantra 13 we have to see today. So those who say that because the self is not experienceable by the body, mind and the intellect, it does not exist. So we saw these earlier two mantras, not earlier two, this one mantra, which is mantra 12, and then the 13th one. Today is what we see. So it is said in that, Asti iti bruvato anyatra katham tadupalabhyate. How can it be realized except that it is existence? It cannot be realized as non-existence. And that whole commentary we saw. Now, the connection to that mantra and the next one, the line that Shankaracharya has written is Tasmad apohya asadvadi paksham asuram. So he says that this devilish company of these people who are who are believers of non-existence, that their opinion is negated by the scripture itself, by the Upanishad itself in mantra 13. Asti tyevopalabdhavyah tattva bhavena chobhayoho. Asti tyevopalabdhasya tattva bhava prasidati. Asti iti eva upalabdhavyah. The nature of the pure self is to be understood as isness, asti, and eva meaning only as existence, not as some blank or thoughtlessness or a non-existence, only as existence. Asti iti eva upalabdhavyah. And tattva bhavena chobhayoho. In its essential nature. See, when we say existence, we generally think of existence of car, computer, body, things, around. So existence of, that is conditioned. Here it is tattva bhavena, as existence itself, as the isness which is common in all. The names and forms of the objects will change, but the isness is common in all. What is that isness? What is expressing out as isness is what we experience here as aham, I am. So intellectually we may try and refine our understanding to grasp isness, as though it was earlier itself said that intellect cannot grasp. but at least the conceptual understanding must be very clear. Tattva bhavena upalabdhavya, that there is existence. When we transcend body, mind, intellect, there is existence. It is not a blank. And ubhayoho, meaning as conditioned aspect and unconditioned aspect. Existence of is conditioned aspect, pure existence is unconditioned aspect. So what has to be understood is only existence, whether in condition or unconditioned, but in definitely not as non-existence. That's what the word eva means, and ubhayo means both. So understand it that all this which is an appearance is also appearance of existence. Without this also existence is. That those are the two aspects to understand. Which commentary will also say, I'm just giving a little hint here. Astiti eva upalabdhasya, and one who understands it like this, tattva bhava prasidati, the self reveals itself to that person. Now, when we say self reveals itself to that person, it does not mean that self is choosing, because that gives a doership to the self. The self doesn't have any sense of doership. The tattva bhava prasidati, meaning that person will come to recognize this. That person will come to realize that I am that pure existence only when intellectually at least that person has understood that there is existence when the BMI is transcended. So now let us see the commentary part. Asti iti eva अस्ति इति एव आत्मा उपलब्धव्यः सत्कार्यः बुद्ध्यादि उपाधिः. All this world, what we see is Karya Jagat. From where did it come? It is existence or not? And this upadhi of this buddhi, it is existing or not? We say non-existence is a reality, then none of this should exist, because from non-existence only non-existence can be there. Existence can't come out of non-existence. Very fact that all this is experienced as existence means there is a pure existence which is the cause. So asti iti eva atma, and that existence is what? It is I, the pure I. Asti iti eva atma upalabdhavyah satkaryah buddhyadi upadhihi yada tu tad rahito avikriya atma karyam cha karana vyatirekena na asti वाचारंभणं विकारो नामधेयं मृत्तिकेत्येव सत्यम् इति श्रुतेः तदा यस्य निरुपाधिकस्य अलिंगस्य सत् असत् आदि प्रत्यय विषयत्व वर्जितस्य आत्मनः तत्वभावो भवति तेन च रूपेण आत्मा उपलब्धव्य इति अनुवर्तते. So what this means is very simple, that one is to understand existence as the cause of all that we are seeing. The effect, if the effect is seen, the cause is definitely there, and effect is existent, so cause has to also be existent. A non-existent cause cannot give rise to an existent effect. So that is one part, that is a conditioned aspect, where we see that all this which is existent is because of existence. Like we have seen earlier, that seed is, so the existence is there, then that seed becomes a plant. So the seed was and the plant is, then the plant becomes a tree, so the plant was, the tree is. The cessation of the earlier condition does not mean non-existence. Plant may become non-existent as a plant, but as a tree it is existent. So existence has not gone. It can never go. Form will keep changing. So that is the conditioned aspect of this creation. Existence. The conditioned aspect of existence meaning it appears as the world. Then the next line here says, Tad rahitaha. Without these effects, without the names and forms. So if we detach from these names and forms, then what is it? Avikriya Atma. It is unchanging. Avikriya Atma. Karyam cha karana vyatirekena na asti. Why? Because this karya of Jagat, this whole world of effects, is not different from the cause. If cause is existence, effect also is existence. And in fact, the effect is an illusion in that sense. By itself, it is an illusion without the cause. Like the pot is an illusion. There is nothing called pot except mud. We are looking at mud and saying, oh, this is a pot, but it is only a mud. In the same way, we are looking at existence and we are calling that as computer and phone and this book and all that. That is the computer, phone, that is words. Even you may say, no, Swamiji, material cause, that computer is separate and book is separate, they two are different. Trace the source, it is same, 5 elements only, and 5 elements come from Maya, Maya comes from Brahman. So Brahman only is appearing as this. Our problem is we don't want to see Brahman in this. We have a fixed idea of Brahman. And we think this is matter independently existing of Brahman. How can matter exist independent of Brahman? That is not possible. So even material cause wise, this is existence only, nothing else but existence. But if you say no, give some concession, okay, name and form, it belongs to the perishable world, so you call it as effect. Chalo, that karya and karana is what he is saying here. That atma karyam cha karana vyatirekena na asti. Karyam karana vyatirekena na asti. That is the line. The effect does not exist without the cause. So if you say cause only does not exist, but effect exists, that is stupid. It cannot exist. Pot cannot exist without that mud. Why? Because pot is not, there is nothing called pot. There is only name. There is only word. That's the meaning of that. Vacharambanam vikaro namadheyam. Mrittika iti eva satyam. Mud alone is the truth. Pot is a word. No, it is in a shape. That is what? Shape of what? Mud only. No, it holds water. It holds water. Existence cannot hold water. That's why it's all our conceptions. Without existence, water only will not exist. Forget any pot holding it. So, devoid of all effects, pure existence. So, one is existence of objects. That is what the first line said. The second line is such a long line here. It means the unconditioned aspect, not appearing as these forms. If you detach from all the forms, what will one experience? Avikriya Atma. It is changeless, pure existence. And that is supported by the scripture. Two declarations are, this one declaration given here is Chandogya Upanishad. Iti shrutehe tada yasya nirupadhikasya. That pure existence has no upadhi, has no forms, has no names, nothing. Nirupadhikasya. That itself shows that cause can exist independent of the effect, but effect cannot exist independent of the cause. Isness can remain as it is. Mud can remain as it is. Pot cannot be without mud. The world cannot be without isness. It will become non-existent. So that Atma by itself has no upadhis. Even the world is not a limiting factor for the Atma. Atma is unbound, unlimited. So Asti is the foundation. Whether the world exists in it or does not exist, that is our perception, because we are identified with the world. If we detach from the world, which includes our BMI, what will we experience? Pure existence, not a zero. That pure existence is nirupadhika. Nirupadhikasya alingasya. It is even beyond all. Linga literally means an indicator. It is beyond all pointers. It is beyond the subtle body also. Another meaning of linga is subtle body. Linga sharira is sukshma sharira. But here it means it is beyond all pointers. So nirupadhikasya alingasya sat asat adi pratyaya vishayatva varjitasya. It is beyond, because the word alinga was used. How it is beyond pointer? So it is said sat and asat pratyaya vishayatva varjita. It is only a concept of the buddhi. This is the essential nature of existence, the unconditioned aspect. Now to imagine that isness without any conditioning, without any concepts of existence and non-existence, that is subtlety. That is our true self, basically. Cannot be used, cannot be expressed by words, cannot be understood by intellectual concept. Intellectual concept, we can say isness, that's all. But that's a word, again, and that's only a pointer. What is that state pointing to? That state is nirupadhikasya, that is indescribable by any intellectual concepts of isness and non-existence. Existence and non-existence are intellectual concepts. Oh, they are only intellectual concepts. They are intellectual concepts to understand what the true existence is. Finally, one has to drop those words also and come to that state. Just because one has to drop those words does not mean that that state does not exist. Our problem is that, oh God, intellectual concept, they are. Existence and non-existence also concept. Then what is the truth? The truth is indicated by the word existence. If I contemplate in that direction, that asti, 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 asmi, 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 those words will drop. One will come to that state and realize, oh, that is me. That is sadhana. That is what the samadhi avastha, etc. one experiences. So that's why he says sat asat adi pratyaya vishayatva varjitasya atmanaha tattva bhavaha bhavati. This atma is beyond these concepts of even existence and non-existence. That by now we should have known, studying the Upanishad, ki any description is only a pointer. It cannot define the Atma. It cannot, it is not the ultimate. It indicates the ultimate. So it has to be transcended. The pointer has to be transcended. However great that pointer may be and however in love I may be with that pointer, I have to leave that to know the truth. So that's why he says Vishaya Varjitasa, because in that there is no concept of existence and non-existence. When the buddhi only is transcended, how can buddhi's concepts be there? How to transcend that buddhi? That is what we are seeing. That is what we are discussing about, that when one transcends the buddhi, one will experience that state of existence. How to transcend the buddhi? Using the pointers, linga, indicators. Oh, it is existence. Because non-existence also is a pointer. Of what? It does not exist. So if the buddhi thinks of non-existence all the time, the buddhi itself will become non-existent. That's what the Upanishad says. The Taittiriya Upanishad mentions that. Asanneva sabhavati asad brahmeti veda chet. One who says Brahman is non-existence becomes non-existent. Why? Because the person is going on thinking it doesn't exist, will destroy oneself. Because if ultimate reality doesn't exist, then what? Or it is non-existence. then it makes no sense to even walk the path to realize what? Non-existence. So that's why this Atma has to be known in its unconditioned aspect, that it is beyond the Karya Jagat, beyond all pointers also. When we say Atma is that in which the whole world rises, stays and falls, that is Sat. Now the whole world itself is negated. When the earlier part we saw, no, that the Karya does not exist without Karana, and these objects are only appearances of existence. To know existence in its unconditioned aspect, I have to drop all the names and forms. Names and forms, if I drop, the pointer that it is the substratum of the names and forms, that pointer also I have to drop. Then the Nirupadhika state is realized. That is what this means. Sat asat adi pratyaya vishayatva varjitasya atmanah tattva bhavaha bhavati. That is the essential nature of Sat, existence. Devoid of the effects, devoid of the concepts of existence. So I have detached from the objects also, and I say objects are appearance of existence. Now existence itself is a concept of the buddhi, because buddhi cannot function without concept. So it needs a concept, and it better be a right concept, which is that it is, the world is. So there is an existence. Now using that, when we say existence is, and that is the Atma, and Aham, I am, that is the pure state. The words I am, the understanding of I am also one will drop. Then what will remain? That what remains is called existence. That is real existence in its essential nature. Not the word existence, not the concept existence, not the existence of objects. So one of the deepest meanings of the word Tyage Naike Amritatva Manashuhu is this. Generally one says, so simple meaning we say Tyaga of attachments, Tyaga of Ahankar. That is no doubt it is correct. But as we go deeper into contemplation and understanding of Vedanta, then what is the Tyaga? Tyaga is of all these also. Tyaga of the Karya Jagat, Tyaga of the concepts, Tyaga of the word. That what remains then is that state. Very difficult to understand. It's very simple to understand. The word sleep is not equal to sleep. The pointer sleep, which indicates that state where this waking dream experiences are not there, that is also not sleep. If I am identified with the world of objects through my senses, that is also not sleep. But if I say I am sleeping, I don't want, I have withdrawn from the world, I have withdrawn from speaking also, I want to sleep. Now only the word is there in the buddhi. The desire is there in the buddhi. I want to sleep. Then that also goes. Then where are you? In sleep. That state of sleep is not equal to the word of sleep, not equal to the concept of sleep, that it is that state in which all this is disappeared. It is not equal to this state of the world of objects. So for us it may seem very difficult and subtle and oh God, this is very complicated. There is nothing complicated. In our life we do that all the time. Suppose somebody says, Prakash, come here. What will happen? Will that person say, oh, somebody called Prakash is being called? The person says, I am Prakash. So that person identifies with the word. But does the identification remain with the word? No, the identification shifts from the word to I, that I am Prakash. Does that person then say that, oh, Prakash means light, so some light is being called? No. The person drops the word called Prakash. Person drops the meaning of the word called Prakash. And the person thinks that I am being called, so that person will walk and go. In every aspect of life, we do this. So it is not something absolutely difficult or unachievable. It may be subtler than these things, but what I am saying is that one should not make one should not get discouraged or disheartened, or one should not feel, oh God, this is too difficult. It is not. Every moment we are doing that in our life. Only challenge here is we have to withdraw. Otherwise, in the other experiences, I am using the senses. Here I have to withdraw the body, mind and intellect. So withdrawing from the body means withdraw from the attachment that I am this. Withdraw from the world of objects. Control the senses. Turn the attention of the mind to the body, from the body to the breath. Then the body awareness goes. Then from breath to the mind. All the attachments I drop. Then to intellect, all the concepts. So using the intellect, I drop all the mental attachments. Why? Because I am not this jiva, I am that consciousness. So aham asmi. Consciousness and existence is the truth. Holding on to those concepts, I drop all the other things. Finally drop the concept also. Drop the word, drop the meaning, drop the concept. What remains then? Atma. That is the state which is what one is trying to experience. That is called tyagena ekena amritatva manashuhu. When I drop everything, including concept of existence and non-existence, what remains is Sat. That is the nirupadhik roop of Sat. The unconditioned aspect of existence, which is Asti. So that is what he says here. Tattva bhava bhavati tena cha rupena atma upalabdhavya iti anuvartate. In this way, this is the nature of Atma. This has to be understood. Not as non-existence. So this line, Asti iti eva upalabdhavya tattva bhavena cha ubhayoho. Now it is said, Tatra api ubhayoho sopadhika nirupadhikayoho astitva tattva bhavayoho nirdharanartha shashti purvam asti iti eva upalabdhasya atmanah satkarya upadhihi. Satkarya upadhikrita astitva pratyayena upalabdhasya iti arthaha. So that's what I said this earlier. I've explained this actually. This Sat and Asat, not Sat and Asat, sorry. The Sopadhik and Nirupadhik. Sopadhika Nirupadhikayoho. So the word Ubhayo means grasp this existence in these two ways. In the conditioned aspect, as the appearance of names and forms, all the names and forms exist. And in the unconditioned aspect, as it is beyond all names and forms, all concepts and pointers. It is changeless, absolute bliss, which is the nature of the Atma. In that way, this has to be understood. Nirdharanartha Shashtihi. So this word, this Shashti Prayoga is there in this. Astiti eva upalabdhavya tattva bhavena chobhayoho. Astiti eva upalabdhasya. So that is the Shashti Prayoga. That is to be decisive. We have to translate it in English. It is this. The sixth case in Ubhayoho is to imply selection of the two, of the conditioned and unconditioned, of the aspects of immanence and transcendence. So immanence is the world of objects where existence is one common factor in all, and transcendence is what we just saw. When we drop all these names, forms, attributes, concepts, that is the transcendent aspect. The Tattva Bhava aspect, the real aspect, Asti iti eva upalabdhasya. That person will realize that self only as isness. which earlier that person has concluded intellectually, now that person will experience it when one transcends. If earlier conclusion itself is intellectually, it is non-existence, then what will that person realize? Non-existence. Now that is a strange part. That person will realize non-existence, meaning that person is still existing, no? So who realizes non-existence? That is one existent entity. So that means existence is there. Nobody can negate Sat. Existence cannot be negated. So non-existence can never be the ultimate reality, because the non-existence is an object of perception of an existent entity. And that non-existence will again go back and turn into existence when that person comes out of that state. Because one will see the world as existing. So it's only a false notion to think that ultimate state is a non-existence. So only that person who has intellectually also understood clearly that the ultimate truth is an existence. It is not thoughtlessness, not a blank, not a shunya, none of those. That person will only realize this. Paschat pratyastamita sarva upadhi rupa atmano satatva atmanaha tattva bhavaha vidita aviditabhyam anyo advaya svabhavo neti neti iti asthulam ananu ahrasvam adrishye anatme anirukte anilayane iti adi shruti nirdishtah prasidati abhimukhi bhavati atma prakashanaya purvam asti iti upalabdha vat iti etat. The scriptural quotations are given here that how this person will come to experience this state of oneness. Two quotations are given here. When one rejects neti neti, three actually are given, three quotations are given. Neti neti, by rejecting and negating all the gross and the subtle forms and attachments, ego, all that. When one negates everything, the true I alone that remains, that cannot be negated, because that is the drashta, that is the sakshi, that is the ultimate observer. Ultimate observer never can be negated. So using this passages of the Shruti, a person follows. When one has intellectually understood that it is existence, then one is doing the sadhana, made the mind subtle, single pointed, contemplating on the pointer of the Atma. That person has negated all attachments to the objects, to the BMI. So that is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says negate. What it is not, keep on negating. One will finally come to pure I, that will never be negated. So until something can be dropped, keep dropping it. That's a simple pointer. Drop. Can a thought be dropped? Drop. Concept be dropped? Yes. Object can be dropped? Yes. Attachment can be dropped? Yes. I can be dropped? No. Pure I cannot be dropped. Because who is there to drop it? Then that is some other thing then. So the ultimate observer will never be, you cannot negate it. It will always be there. Who observes that everything else is not there. Then who is observing that? That is I. So neti neti, that is one quotation. Second quotation, asthulam an anu ahraswam. It is not sthula, meaning it is not gross, it is not subtle, it is not small, it is not big. All those pointers are there of the Atma. Adrishye anatme anirukte anilayane. So that is the Taittiriya Upanishad. The earlier is from Brihadaranyaka 2 and now the Taittiriya Upanishad, where it is said adrishye anatme anirukte anilayane. So the changeless, the bodiless, the inexpressible, and the unsupporting. These are all pointers. It is the changeless. No change can happen in that. It is bodiless. Beyond all the three bodies. Bodiless. Then it is inexpressible. Because if it is beyond three bodies, how can that be expressed by speech? And it is unsupporting. Unsupporting meaning, anilayane meaning, nothing can affect this substratum. Like this rope is unsupporting of the snake. In what sense? The snake doesn't stay in the rope. Nilaya means a house, na, where you stay. The snake is not staying inside the rope. In that sense, the snake is unsupported by the rope because snake does not exist. It's a superimposition because of delusion. Otherwise, it is not there. It's only rope which is appearing as the snake. So these are the various pointers that the student can use to lift the mind to try and experience that unconditioned state. When can the student do that? Only after having intellectually accepted that there is an existence which is the ultimate reality, which is my true self. It's not an existence separate from I. That is my true self. When this person has been able to do both this, intellectually one has understood, accepted, contemplated, and one has then come to detach from all the concepts and all the attachments to the objects and to BMI, to that person, this Atma as though reveals itself. Please remember, it is as though. It is not that Atma is doing something to reveal. No. To that person, this Atma becomes self-evident. Oh, this is my nature. Till now I was thinking like the dreamer. We can't say that the waker revealed himself to the dreamer. The dreamer dissolved in that waker. And the waker realized, oh, I alone am actually. This whole world and the dream world and everything is mithya. It didn't exist at all. So it is in that sense. And that's why he says, Ityadi Shruti Nirdishtaha Prasidati Abhimukhi Bhavati. The self as though turns to that person. Abhimukha means to turn or to reveal. Turn and reveal, these are limited words. And again, limitation of language. Atma is all the time evident even right now. Our nature is Atma only. Only that we as a Jiva have turned away from it. Now we have to turn back. So as though the Atma has revealed when we have turned within. So Abhimukhi Bhavati Atma Prakashanaya Purvam Asti iti Upalabdhavat iti etat. What that person had intellectually understood, that one will experience now. So this is a mantra. It seems to be very confusing in the words itself of the mantra and then the commentary also, but it is not very confusing. It is simple. Intellectually, one should first determine that it is existence, then learn to drop attachments, and one will come to realize it as existence in one's true nature. So astiti eva upalabdhasya tattva bhava prasidati. That person will come to realize the truth. Now going ahead, evam paramartha darshinaha. In this way, the one who has experienced that state of paramartha, the supreme transcendental state, what is the result of that? We are bound as jivas, bound by desire, bound by actions, bound by ignorance. So what happens to all those? When I come to realize that Asti, the pure existence alone I am, Asmi, then what happens to all these bondages which are there? Karma bandhan is there. So this 14th and 15th one will explain that. यदा सर्वे प्रमुच्यन्ते कामा येस्य हृदि श्रिताः अथ मर्त्यो मृतो भवति अत्र ब्रह्म समश्नुते. So yada sarve pramuchyante, when that person comes to realize that state, what has actually happened? Even before one has actually realized that state, all the desires have been dropped. Even this desire to realize, we saw it drops. That person from whose heart all desires have dropped. Yada sarve pramuchyante kamaha yesya hridi shritaha. Now please remember, the word hridi here does not mean the heart as we understand the combination of pure mind and a subtle intellect. That intuitive capability is what we call as heart, where we feel aham, 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 which is, so actually heart is the pointer of self only. Here it does not mean that. Here it only means buddhi. So hridi means buddhi here, because the desires are in the buddhi. So when from the buddhi all the desires have dropped, including desire to realize, because what is there to realize which is not me already? My true self is that pure consciousness. So even the desire to realize will stop, will drop. Like the desire to sleep drops when we actually just get sucked into sleep. With that desire, we have dropped all other desire, then that one desire also goes. Then what happens? Atham martyo amrito bhavati. The mortal becomes immortal. Atra brahma samashnute. That is a state of Brahman. So now let us see the commentary. Yada yasmin kale sarve kamaha kamayitavyasya anyasya abhavat pramuchyante vishiryante ye asya प्राक प्रतिबोधात विदुषो हृदि बुद्धौ श्रिता आश्रिताः. So before realization, प्राक प्रबोध, प्राक pratibodhat, pratibodha is realization or enlightenment. Before that, of this wise person, vidushaha, of this wise person, before enlightenment, what all desires were there? Sarve, all the desires. Sarve yasmin, yada sarve yada yasmin kale, at that moment. Now please remember that moment and all that means what? Don't say at this moment I got realized. Now I know at this moment all my desires dropped. One is transcending time. To realize the absolute, one has to go beyond time. But we are using that word yada, mantra also is using the word yada because we are in time right now. So right now it is state to make a person only understand the difference before realization, after realization. So the word yada is used. In that state there is no time. Only when one transcends time one discovers that state. So one should not say it is just like sleep. No, how can we say at what time we went to sleep? We can say what time we were lying down on the bed. But sleep, you can't say. You can say before sleep I was doing this, then in sleep I left all this and I don't know what happened. I slept like a log. Or I dreamt, whatever. That one of the things one will say. So the idea is that yada yasmin kale doesn't mean a specific time. It means whenever that has happened, when this attachment has transcended, all the desires have transcended. That moment. That is also for whom? For us, not for that person. So yada yasmin kale sarve kamaha, all the desires are gone. Why? Kamaitavyasya anyasya abhavat. Because there is nothing to desire. All objects one has detached from. Desire can remain only when there is objects. So the subject wants something to feel complete, and that something is object. Food or clothes or music or achievement or power, money, something it wants. Here is a person who is sitting to contemplate, who has withdrawn the attention from all objects. So when there is no object only, what is there to desire now? No, but there is a subject, no, I, that is what I want to realize. So that is the desire for realization. That one desire also goes. When one has understood that I am that awareness and consciousness, which is existence, which is only appearing as all this, including this Mr. So-and-so, this small I who wants to realize. So the realization is drop attachment to small I, meaning drop all desires also, drop all ego, drop all concepts. That one has understood intellectually very clearly. So there is no desire also finally in that state to even realize, because Atma is not something other. Desire can only be for something other, the object. That's why he says, Kamaitavyasya anyasya abhavat. Anya means other. If there is other, then there is kamna. If there is no other, where there is a kamna? Simple, no? This body is I. Other than this body is the objects. Nobody desires, may I have a hand? I already have a hand. It is I. But I want to have a ring on my hand. That ring is separate, so that I want. I want to have some beauty cream, or I want to have some ice cream, or I want to have some good clothes. All that is other than I. Because right now our notion of I is in this body. So we don't desire what we already have. I already have body, I already have hand, I already have leg. We may desire, maybe, I should become more beautiful. That is because I feel I am not beautiful, so become more beautiful. Because the sense of I, when I feel I am not, so there is abhava. That's why he says, Kamaitavyasya anyasya, because that is something other. Right now I am not so beautiful, I want to become beautiful. So it need not be only objects, it can even be some of these subtler emotions or appearances. All that is not there in that state, because it is anya. Now you just see that in Vedanta, what is anya? Whatever I can call as this is called anya. And whatever is aham, that is I. Apart from the real I, everything else is called this. This computer, this book, this speaker, this camera, same way, this body, this mind, this intellect, this concept, this notion is all this. All that is transcendent. See the depths at which the contemplation goes. Single pointedness, that's why is the means to that state. If the mind is not single pointed, it can't come to this level at all. How to keep that mind without any objects? Think about that. Single pointedness means what? Away from all the other objects, only one thought on one object. Whatever it is, mantra or form of Bhagavan, any such thing. If the mind cannot stay single pointed in the one and it keeps jumping to many, how will this mind drop even that one and stay in the state of existence, of in the state as existence, where there is no object, there is nothing to hold on to, no concept also to hold on to, no pointer of the truth to hold on to? That is the state. So that's where one should not feel that, oh God, there's nothing to hold on to, then what will happen? But Atma is your true self, that is what will reveal itself. Tattva bhava prasidati, it was said. The self will reveal itself, meaning one will wake up, one will realize, oh, I am that. One is not in some limbo. The world is also gone, Atma, I don't know what it is, now I am stuck somewhere. No, it is not like that. So, when all desires are dropped, यदा यस्मिन् काले सर्वे कामाः कामितव्यस्य अन्यस्य अभावात्. None of the things which I say, this, none of that exist. Pramuchyante. All the desires have dropped. Vishiryante, meaning they have dropped. When they were existing, prag pratibodhat vidushaha. Before enlightenment, what all desires were there? Where? Hridi, buddhau. Meaning in the buddhi. So that buddhi has dropped all desires. All sense of I am finite, I need something to become complete. Desire means that actually. What is desire? A scheme for happiness in future to fulfill my incompleteness in the present. That is called desire. In the present, I feel incomplete. Now to feel complete, I have a scheme for happiness that if I get this, then I will be happy. That scheme is called desire. How strange, na? How contradictory is the definition of desire only. A scheme for happiness in the future to fulfill the incompleteness in the present. That definition of desire only is enough to actually tell any thinking person that it is impossible. Present incompleteness will be fulfilled by future scheme for happiness. How is it possible? There is no connection only. And that's why we never feel fulfilled. How many ever desires get fulfilled? How many ever desires get satisfied? We don't feel fulfilled. Why? Because inherently the desire itself is incapable of removing incompleteness. Because that incompleteness is not because of lack of something. It is because of feeling I am this incomplete body. It's because of false identification. There is no incompleteness. There is only Purnata. I am that Purnata as a self. So all those notions which exist before realization, they all have dropped. And that's why one withdraws from desire. Any thinking person will withdraw from desire to experience fulfillment. Till that knowledge is not there, ki why am I feeling unfulfilled? Till that person goes on chasing desire, and it's like a musk. In the Himalayan region, the musk which is there goes on thinking from where is the smell coming and goes running, chasing. It is coming from its own nabhi, from its own navel. It is the very source of that musk. And that musk, you know that it is more costly than gold also. The musk doesn't know only. So it keeps chasing. So like that we keep chasing, not knowing that our nature is fulfillment and Purnata already. So some desire I will have, and then the chase starts. And that is the interesting part of this whole thing. I am chasing to get peace. Now sometimes when I think of all that, we feel very stupid. What am I doing sitting here in this life? Chasing for what? Peace. You stop chasing, peace is there only. But we still chase. How strange is that? That is a contradiction of human life. We live in contradictions only, full time. So here it is said, before enlightenment, all those desires which are in the buddhi, because the buddhi only makes us think like that. If I get this, I will be happy. If I go there, I will be happy. If I become this, I will be happy. And the strange thing is, one has got all that also, one is not happy. One still wants something else. Now there are other people who have already got it. Are they happy? They are not. You know, the other day we made a meme. One small little fellow, baby, having spectacles, and there's a book. And the caption in that is, I have figured out that all the elders have no idea what the hell they are doing. It is a fact. we seem to be on a purpose, I have to achieve this goal, I have to become that, and I have to go there, and this is the target, and that is the goal. Excellent. From fulfillment standpoint, zero it is. Because none of them will lead to fulfillment. Time pass, if you want, we are already doing time pass. Full life, what are we doing? From Vedanta standpoint, time pass only. What else? There's nothing productive out here. Only reality is Aham Brahmasmi. That's it. If effort is being put to realize that, then there is some semblance of sanity. Otherwise, it is insane. Completely insane. Trying to experience fulfillment in the present by scheming for the future. Wow. And that future is uncertain. So we don't know whether it will happen, not happen. And still one still depends on that for fulfillment. How stupid is that or not? Yeah, I'm not trying to condemn anything or any pursuit. I'm just reflecting loudly in my thinking. When we understand the limitations of human pursuit and this desire, and then the power based on that desire and achievement is all power play. I am greater than you, you are lower than me, all stupid nonsense going on. That's why I'm saying it is all time pass. Waste of time actually it is. One may say at a lower level that, oh, that also helps us to evolve. Okay, one can say that. From higher standpoint, the dream doesn't help the waker to evolve. Sorry, there is no dream. The dream is not helping the waker to evolve in any case, because the waker is already the waker, full stop. The dream is a time pass. So everything that we are doing in this world from that highest standpoint is only time pass. And that's why the Kenopanishad said very nicely that if having got a human birth, if I am striving to know the self, then that is some, valid use of this human body. Consciously. Don't say unconsciously, even my pursuit of wealth and power and position is leading me to that only. I may have vasana pressure, I am running behind it, but if I do it with that awareness, then I will want to reduce that and turn within. Simply justifying all pursuit as, oh, it is helping me to evolve, then that is a part of that time pass only. And so that's why this buddhi of ours has such brilliant capability to realize the self. Leaving the time pass, one has to come to realize the self. And obviously one cannot leave it just like that, because the karma pressure is there, vasana pressure is there. So then transform the attitude to karma yoga, do the upasana, and prepare oneself for the higher state of contemplation. If those are not done, then the dropping of all desires will not happen. So if somebody thinks that I will meditate directly and drop all desires, because that's what is said here, it is impossible. The pressure of desire will not allow us to sit more than 5 minutes also. It will make us get up, or it will make the mind wander. So those preparations I have to do, karma yoga, upasana, etc. Life is meant for that. Then I am at least, consciously walking the path, eliminating all the attachments through my life, and trying to wake up to who am I. And when I wake up, then I realize that none of this anyway was there. It was a illusion. It was just a projection. So all these buddhis which is there in the buddhi, hridi buddhau shritaha ashritaha, buddhirhi kamanam ashrayo na atma. That is very clear. That all the desires rise in the intellect. They reside in the intellect. They are not in the atma. They rise, reside, and resolve themselves in the intellect only. They dissolve in the intellect only. Atma is unaffected by any desire. So even desire to realize is in the buddhi, and that is why even that has to be dropped. That's why he says sarve pramuchyante. All desires drop, including desire for realization. The Atma is not a product of desire fulfillment. Like other things we get through desire fulfillment, Atma is not a product of that. Atma is the enlivener of that buddhi which has desire. So desire cannot know the Atma. Desire cannot help me to know the Atma. It can help me to reject whatever else so that the buddhi is capable of negating itself and dissolve. That the buddhi can do, that the desire for realization can do. So kama sankalpaha, Brihadaranyaka say that the sankalpa and kama etc. are in the buddhi. इत्यादि श्रुति अंतराच्च अथ तदा मर्त्यः प्राक् प्रबोधात् आसीत् स प्रबोध उत्तर कालम अविद्या काम कर्म लक्षणस्य मृत्योः विनाशाद अमृतो भवति. So when by the word desire, so before knowledge of realization, before knowledge of the self, the human being is bound by these three. So the word desire indicates all the three. Avidya, kama, karma. They are called the knots of the heart. The even technical words, if we want to describe bondage, is these knots of the heart. Avidya, kama, karma is called hridaya granthi. So the buddhi is having this ignorance, desire, and then the karma. To fulfill desire, I have to do karma. So through the body, so buddhi will prompt the mind and the body to act to fulfill the desire. So when he says all desires are dropped, it means all the three get dropped. Knowledge also arises in the buddhi to destroy ignorance through steady contemplation. Atma has no ignorance. Atma doesn't get knowledge. Atma is untouched by whatever is happening. All that is happening is in the buddhi. Buddhi has forgotten who it is and identified with the buddhi, the jiva bhava is there. So that jiva has forgotten who he is or she is, that he or she also actually is useless. It is language limitation. Who Atma is, one has forgotten that. The jiva has forgotten my nature as Atma. Then that jiva thinks I am this buddhi and this mind and this body, and one has desires and one lives in the world. There is a process of tracing back. So this buddhi, when we say all desires are dropped, then avidya gone, kama gone, karma also gone. It definitely in that state. Because one has withdrawn from all karma, one has dropped all the desires. Only desire is to realize absolute, and steadily contemplating on that, the knowledge that rises will destroy this avidya also. Then what remains? Tattva bhava prasidati, what the earlier mantra said. That tattva alone will remain. And that is why martyaha amritaha bhavati. So the mortal becomes immortal. Why? Because all attachment to the mortal, which is body, mind, intellect, is gone. One has understood I am not this at all. I am the immortal absolute. So the Vedantic understanding is not that the mortal, when the word used is martyo amrito bhavati, it is not the mortal becomes immortal. That's a limitation of language. Mortal discovered that I was always immortal. Mortality was a myth. That's the realization. Gamana prayojakasya martyoho vinashad gamana anupapattehe atra iha eva pradipa nirvanavat sarva bandhana upashamad brahma samashnute brahmaiva bhavati iti arthaha. So what does that mean here? One sentence, one word I just need to see. So what he says here is death which causes departure having been destroyed, there is no possibility of departure. Because as long as jiva is there, then the body has certain karma prarabdha. When it is over, the body will die. So the jiva departs from this body. Now that Jiva Bhav only is gone. So death is also dead. So there is no death. Death which causes departure having been destroyed. That means death of death. There remains no possibility of departure. And hence Atra, here itself, owing to the cessation of all bondage, because avidya, kama, karma is all gone. So there is no punarjanma for that person. That person has realized the immortal state. Like the blowing out of a lamp. So when the lamp is blown out, it goes. So the flame disappears. Like that the jiva disappeared. Samashnute Brahma attains Brahman and becomes Brahman itself. And that person realizes Aham Brahmasmi. So the death is also dead. So there is no departure. Atra Brahma Samashnute, meaning here and now, in this life, in this moment, one has come to experience fulfillment. That is the path of fulfillment, not desire fulfillment. Because we saw the definition. To fulfill, the scheme to become happy in future, to fulfill the incompleteness in the present, that is impossible. But the possibility to discover that completeness by dropping all desires is what this mantra spoke about, and that person becomes immortal. So for today we will stop here. Any questions, anything on this today's session? Now it is unmuted.
Swamiji, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Swamiji?
I can hear.
In mantra 13, there is a word araswam, astulam.
Raswa means small.
Okay.
Raswa and Dirgha we have, na? So, like that, Raswa means small, Dirgha means long.
Okay. So
that which is not small. Raswa means which is not small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Haji.
Now I come back. Yeah. So Swamiji, when you're saying that basically it's the desires are in the intellect.
Yeah.
So what about the vasanas, Swamiji? Where do they reside?
Causal body, no? So they are the unmanifest tendencies.
Which is also in the intellect?
No. They will express in the intellect as a desire. So subtle body has man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. But the causal body is unmanifest vasanas and ignorance. Which will manifest in the buddhi as a desire, in the mind as thought agitations, and the body as action. So causal body is a different body.
Right.
Subtler than subtle body, because that's why it is called causal body. It is the cause of the subtle body, which is our mind, intellect, memory, ego, and cause of the gross body. So it is called causal body, but it is the seed state. What we can say in simple terms, it is a seed state. And we experience that state in deep sleep.
Right.
So that state is vasanas. Vasanas are unmanifest in that state.
So which means that one needs to go beyond the subtle body to actually drop to for the vasanas to get reduced.
Not to get reduced, to transcend the ego, one has to go beyond subtle body, because vasana reduction can happen even while doing our actions in the world. When we every moment when we are acting, or even when we are feeling, thinking, vasanas are continuously manifesting. But because we do it as a jiva, we are adding new vasanas also.
Right.
But if I do it with the bhav of karma yoga and dedication, then I am not creating new vasana. So even through that, vasana exhaustion will happen and no new vasana will get created. But I need to go beyond subtle body to know who am I truly. For vasana exhaustion alone, I don't have to go beyond subtle body, because that is not necessary by itself.
Hmm.
The subtle body also vasana exhaustion can happen.
Okay.
But to realize the self as infinite consciousness, I have to give up jiva bhav. That jiva bhav is in the subtle body as a hankar. So if I want to realize the self, then that's where I need to go beyond subtle body, beyond ahankar.
And that can come via contemplation. I mean, that is, you'll get there via contemplation.
Yeah, that will happen through steady contemplation on the self.
Hmm.
And that is possible when Karma Yoga Upasana, Shravan Manan has happened. These four things have to happen, then Nididhyasana, which is contemplation, can happen.
Hmm. And also, Swamiji, one more question I had, that if the Atman is untouched and is neutral, so the Atman is not doing anything, while you are doing karma or your actions, you are not the doer, right? So then if the Atman is also the neutral and if you are also not the doer, then who's doing it?
So, two ways to understand this. This question has an assumption that doing is happening, right? Why is that assumption there? Because I am identified with the body. So if I'm identified with the body, I am a jiva. Atma is not doing anything, but this jiva, if it is real, then Ishvara is also real. So that Ishvara is the karta. That is one way to understand this. Because as long as jiva is there, the individuality is there, there is a totality, and the totality is the karta. So we say that this Atma, its power of Maya, which we call Brahman, its power of Maya becomes Ishvara, and that Ishvara is the creator of this whole universe, and that Ishvara is the karta. I am not the karta. So I surrender my doership. When I surrender my doership, I realize that I am only that akarta Atma. And I am only that Brahman. There is no difference at all. And there is no world, there is nothing. So the basic assumption is what we have to question. So from Bhakti standpoint, as a simpler explanation, we say Jiva is not the Karta, Atma is the Karta, then who is the Karta? Ishvara is the Karta, or Maya is the Karta, or the three gunas are the Karta. But the second approach is what we say, we ask, who is doing this? If action is happening, who is the Karta? Then one will actually understand the action is not happening only. It is like asking that, the snake is real, I assume, and then I ask from where the snake came. Then one says, okay, it came from the rope. But if you say, no, rope is not capable of producing the snake, then from where it came? Then one says, your question has an assumption that the snake came. First ask whether snake came or not. So that's the path of knowledge, the inquiry. That karma is happening, but how can karma even happen? That is because I am thinking of myself as a karta. If I inquire who am I, then I will realize there is no karta at all. So karma itself is a myth. So whichever path, both will lead to the same state. But for us, most of the time, it is more easier to use the first level or the first approach, that Ishvara is a karta. So we say, Bhagwan, you are the karta, you are the bhokta, I am only an instrument. That's the simpler approach, because I am doing the action. To say that this action only is not happening, to live in that state all the time seems very difficult.
That's very difficult, Swamiji, because action though is happening. Now, how can you believe that action is only not happening?
Only from higher standpoint we can believe. From the waker standpoint, the dream is not there at all. So where is the question of dream actions being done by one dream character? That's why it is a very high state. So that's why it is difficult. But there are people who live in that state. People who experience the Samadhi Avastha get that experiential abidance. They know that this is not even happening. So for us to intellectually falsify action while doing action is very difficult. And that's why it is easier to surrender to Bhagavan.
So on the path of Karma Yoga also, then that's where you get in the aspect of Bhakti Yoga, of then believing that there's a divine power which is actually responsible for everything that's happening.
Yes. Karma Yoga is not possible without Bhakti. Ishwar Arpan Bhav plus Prasada Buddhi is equal to Karma Yoga. That's the equation of Karma Yoga. So highest form of dedication is dedication to the Lord. If I don't believe in God, then some lower forms I can use in terms of country, culture, profession, family, those things, but they all are perishable by themselves. Only Bhagavan can be actually an altar of surrender. So to dedicate the actions to that is Ishwar Arpan Bhav, and the results also come from that Bhagavan only. So to accept it as Prasada Buddhi. So that's why Karma Yoga cannot be done without Bhakti.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes.
See, when we say that desire arises in the intellect because of the vasana, so desire to realize is also vasana, right?
Sattvic Vasana, yes.
Yeah, so that will get exhausted by itself by doing the sadhana and
Yes.
contemplation, or that also like people have to put in efforts to just leave, because otherwise that sattvic vasana also will be a bondage, right?
Yes.
So
So
till
that's
then,
why Bhagavan said, whatever you do, the sadhana also dedicate to me. Then
okay,
that Sattvic Vasana will not bind us. That's why he says now that Yad Juhoshi Dadasi Yat Tapasyasi Kaunteya Tat Kurushva Mad Arpanam. He said, whatever tapasya you do, whatever rituals you do, whatever sadhana you do, offer it to me. So just like we do with other actions in the world, our duties and other things where we practice the Ishwar Arpan Bhav, with sadhana also we have to do that. So at the end of every
yes,
puja, we will say Narayanaya iti Samarpana.
samarpana.
Then the Sattvic Vasana will not bind.
Okay, so but then it will get that vasana also will get exhausted by itself by just samarpan.
Yes, that will get exhausted by Samarpan. New Vasana will not arise, so that mind will become more and more purified, and that finally that person can contemplate, or Bhagavan's grace happens and the person realizes.
Yes, so like when many a times when we are doing sadhana, like we are doing the karma kand or the bhakti or puja, we feel that we just don't want to do all this thing. We just want to sit quietly and think about it, like how we just contemplate on the sloka or something. So not the physical action, but just mentally. So that is also sadhana, right?
Yes, that's a subtler sadhana. It is good. The progression must happen. One should not slip into laziness for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But from gross puja to manasik puja, we can shift, and from manasik to dhyan, or to japa and then to dhyan. So that's what the Raman Maharshi also said in
Process.
the Upadesha. That's the process.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Okay. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.